Hello, and welcome back to the Audible Waters podcast. I'm your host, Ralph Jesperson. Today I'm sharing a dream I had just last year. I just finished up a three-part series of dreams I had regarding a new civil war coming to the U.S. Now I have a couple of dreams I have had in the last 2 years that are about natural disasters that are extreme in their nature. I interpret these as events that are leading up to that civil war and could also be results of what the war would do to our nation and its economy after it starts. So this is related to the Civil War, either leading up to it or coming out of it as a side effect. And so here is this dream in a form that you can read or listen to or both.
In it, I was riding as a passenger inside a truck being driven by my summertime neighbor. A man who literally owns the house next to me, but is only up here from October. We were driving in the desert of Arizona down a paved road. I had a second-hand view in the dream, so I saw the truck from above. I was not seeing from a viewpoint inside the truck, but I knew I was in there, and so was he. Then I noticed something very wrong. The road was elevated, and I started to see flood waters on both sides of the road. At first it was not very deep, but it quickly got deeper. Then we drove past a levee on a wash like the one I grew up next to. I grew up next to the Indian Bend Wash in Scottsdale, Arizona. There is a freeway now over that, and there is a canal on one side and a levee on the other to keep contained the flood waters when that thing fills up. It is rare for water to be in it, but when it floods it can really flood. In the dream, I saw the water was so high it had spilled over the top of the levee on one side and was washing it away, and there was a great torrent of water coming out and flooding a vast area. My neighbor was driving fast, which is normal for him in real life. On seeing this, I became concerned that the road may not be safe ahead. We continued driving though. We had a warning with some deeper water we drove through, but the road went up in elevation after that. Soon there was water everywhere on the road, and it was impossible to tell how deep it was ahead. So I sounded out a warning telling my neighbor to stop and turn around. He did not. Shortly thereafter I saw him drive the truck into deep water and disappear under it completely, with another truck behind us doing the same thing. There was a deep dip in the road that was hidden under the dirty water. This was again second-person view, so I saw this scene from above. I started to wonder how I would get out, and what I would do, as there was no dry land anywhere at this point, but my neighbor had driven into what had become a large muddy lake. This shock woke me up.
So, what does this dream mean to me? How would I interpret this? This dream reminds me of the dream that started this whole thing off, of getting warnings from God about bad times coming. That dream I had in late June 2008 and also had a truck in it. It was my old one I had for a long time before it eventually broke down. There was a flood in that dream as well, but I foresaw that something was wrong just ahead, and I pulled over just in time. A flood had washed out a bridge right around a bend with a hill on it blocking my view. I came to understand that the washed out bridge represented the economy, which was no longer healthy. Just 3 weeks before the mainstream press announced what became, eventually, the Great Recession, I emailed out a warning to people that I knew. You can find the video on the full detail of that right up here. But in this recent dream of mine, my neighbor was driving a truck. I foresaw problems in the earlier one, and so I pulled over before I would have driven my truck right into a river, as it had been destroyed and the bridge over it completely. In the second, my neighbor had me there as a passenger. He ignored the water and kept driving forward even when it got deeper, until it started pouring over the road he was driving on. I saw signs that a wise man would have heeded to turn around and not proceed any further. I warned my neighbor, but to no avail. He just kept driving on and into a position that likely would drown us both. The symbols are crystal clear for me. 2 trucks, 2 warnings, 2 different drivers, both pointing towards major financial problems for our nation. The first that continued on for 3 years. The new one has not officially started yet, but it is coming just the same, and there are signs of it coming for anyone paying attention out there in the data. Things right now that happened in 2007 are going on, very similar kinds of things right now, indicating it is getting closer. 2 floods. The one that is coming is far worse than the 2008 one. In these dreams, that one, the old one, was confined to a narrow mountain river that washed out one bridge. This new one was in the desert. The total amount of water must have been 10 or 100 times greater. It turned the desert into a great lake with roads that in areas got covered by the lake with a significant depth. These symbols are clear too. We are at the edge of a greater depression by the symbols I had seen in both dreams. 2 drivers. The first was sincerely seeking God with prayer day by day and fasting once a week. That driver slowed down and stopped. A hill that was literally killing people because it hid what was ahead was not fatal to me only because of being able to see with spiritual eyes what the natural ones do not see. Those spiritual eyes are rare these days. Just talking about being a Christian does not make those work with 20/20 vision. The second driver tells others he is a Christian, yet even when signs in the natural pop up that warn people with their own physical eyes, as there is no hill hiding this flood, he continues forward blindly. Instead of warning people, he drives someone else right into the flood. One man sees and stops. Another cannot see even what is around him, and when warned by someone else who actually sees physically, does not heed even that warning. There is a man who once was in a high control cult. He started a YouTube channel called Leaving the Message. The Message is the name of the cult that John Collins left. He often states that while it claims to be Christian, it is actually what he calls a political cult. There are 2 ancient avenues to power in human institutions. One is the political realm, the other is the religious realm. Men who have a great lust for power must choose between these 2, at least to begin with. Many find it easier to go the religious route first and then cross over and attempt to combine the 2. The Reverend Jesse Jackson is that type of person as an example. He started in the one, then crossed over into the other, and combined the 2 for greater power than a person can find being in just the one. These people care about politics so much that they do not really ever talk about the real Jesus of the Bible. Instead, they leverage a fake Jesus, one that is subservient to the political cause instead of being the king that tells us what is real, good, and what is simply not. The highest king of kings gets demoted to servant and slave of the damned political cause. Jesus becomes a liberal fighting for the minority, or he's against communism, or a far righter encouraging bloodshed based on a temporal political cause. This Jesus was for the kings of the nations of old, fighting other kings who also claimed to be Christian. The common people were told that the enemy are not Christians in that other land, they are infidels. Join the army and march forth and kill the infidels. This goes against everything Jesus actually taught and the teachings of the apostles, too. Hence, a political cult was born where God is only leveraged for the narcissism of the leader. Everything goes askew at that point. This brings me back to my neighbor. We have not had that many conversations, but he claims to be saved, yet his views are strongly political and prefers talking about politics as opposed to actual Christianity. In his case, the politics are far right. Christians want people of every political persuasion to be saved, but he once said he would not care if the entire left coast of the U.S. just dropped off and fell into the sea. This is not a Christian thing to say. It's not even a sane thing to say, for there are many on the right who live along what he calls the left coast. He cares not about them. They would all die too. This statement makes me wonder if my neighbor does not know the real Jesus Christ, but instead is a member of a political cult that is disguised in sort of a Christian garb. This is the political cult that hijacks Jesus and subjugates the king to our own carnal cause. I share this as it gives context to why my neighbor would drown himself and anyone else with him when the Civil War starts. He once told me that he knew a civil war was coming, and indeed was the first person I had run into who said such a thing, but it was only later that I realized that this did not disturb him, and that he must have believed it because some preacher told him to expect it and to support the right when it comes. There are various cult leaders promoting a violent form of Christian nationalism that creates rhetoric like the "let's pray the entire left coast falls off into the sea" kind of statements. They paint Jesus like some violent revolutionary that cares nothing about spiritual matters and is only here to promote violence from one party versus the other. This fake Jesus, in reality, is Satan that they are promoting. That kind of thing in his gig has been doing that since the very first political war started between groups of men. He is a liar and a murderer, after all, according to the real Jesus. In my last video, I encouraged anyone listening to become an independent so that when the war starts, you can be useful for the cause of peace and helping both sides towards that end. This would also be safer, as carrying a card of a party makes you a potential target of violence, as being a member of one will not be tolerated for long by the other side. But ignore what I say and you will place on your own back a target for the other party to literally shoot at. Stupid it is, but I have noticed a lot of what is going on all around me all of my life. I am doing my job of warning you to prepare for really bad times and to become a peacemaker, blessed by Jesus, instead of a partisan that, should you encounter radicals of the other party, you will not be safe. I want you to be safe and serving the real Jesus and not a fool that suffers loss because of his foolishness. I have another flooding dream that came to me months after this one. that I would call a brief but very epic dream, warning of the severity of the times that are coming. I will go over that one next week, and then the following week, I have a fire dream that I received just this year. And now that the Christmas season has started, I wish to add that I originally created this channel as a place to put the music I have created in my recording studio for others to listen to. You can find a playlist to an entire album of instrumental versions of Christmas carols on this channel. Here is just one of those songs for your enjoyment in a break from the previous topic I just covered.